And welcome into the Monday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. Hope everybody had a great weekend. What a win for those Tennessee Titans yesterday. We're going to get to it throughout the show here today on the program. Take your thoughts all show long, 615-737-1025. Joseph, good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm having a little bit of a coffee crisis.
Oh, yeah?
But yeah, we'll figure it out. But you know, it's a week to be thankful.
It is.
And I am thankful that Will Levis has given us something different to talk about. Thank you, Will.
Man, hey, man. So am I. Great job, Will. Way to go, buddy. Keyser, how we doing? What's going on?
Doing great, guys. And we can also be happy that the Predators came away with a big win against the Jets this weekend. And among of other Tennessee teams that got the job done this weekend. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, we got a lot to get into on the program today. Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com will be with us at 7:30, fresh off his trip to Houston yesterday to watch the Titans take down the Texans. Corey Curtis from News 2 will be with us for his weekly visit at 8 o'clock as well. And like I said, we'll take your thoughts all show long, 615-737-1025. The Titans win 32-27. They improved to 3-8. They take down a division rival on the road in the Houston Texans. Will Levis, 18 of 24, 278 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, quarterback rating of 123.3. And Joe, equally as important and maybe even more important than the win that they got yesterday, it was legitimately fun to watch them play football, which has not been the case very often over the course of the past couple of years here, but a legitimately fun game, a legitimately fun performance, particularly on the offensive side of the ball for the Titans. And I think if you're a Titans fan watching that game yesterday, you had to walk away happy with what you saw.
Yes. Now I think there'll be someone's going to complain about the draft, right? Like
Yes.
that's going to happen. But you know, they got to 17 and it was like, okay, so they got to 17 quickly. And then it was like, okay, well, you know what you can set your clock to for the rest of the day. There's just going to be turnovers and, you know, fourth downs blown up and whatever. They're not going to score anymore. So once they broke through that ceiling, it's like, boom, they just kept going. They just kept going and going for a Titans team. Pretty amazing.
It was pretty amazing to watch. You get past the 30-point mark. And even though they've already done that once this year, like, you know, go back to that Miami game. It was not necessarily under the category of fun to watch for the Tennessee Titans in that one. This one was. Like, this one really from start to finish offensively, they were making big plays. Like Will Levis for the third week in a row made some big plays in the passing game. And he had, you know, the deep shot to Ridley for 63 yards. Obviously, the 70-yard touchdown to Chig in the second half, which was a huge play in the game. Another touchdown pass, 38-yarder to Nick Westbrook-Akine. I mean, it was plays that they were making kind of left and right in the passing game. And then, oh, by the way, you know, Tony Pollard had 24 carries for 119 yards and a touchdown on the ground as well. So you threw the ball well yesterday, other than really one play where there's a pick six. And when they threw the pick six, like I, along with every other Titans fan, was like, oh, no. Oh, boy, here we go. But you overcame that, had a great day through the air, good day on the ground for the Titans, and you end up with 278 yards of passing offense and 132 yards of rushing offense. It's been a long time, I think, since the Titans have been able to pull something like that off, Joe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the pick six added to the entire wildness and entertainment value of the game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like big play after big play. You had like you said, you laid out the big passing plays. I mean, Pollard had among those yards some big time plays. And then you've got, you know, Jeffrey Simmons, you know, and Tavondre Sweat and Harold Landry making huge plays, you know, in the pass rush, especially late. So a lot of things that going into the year you were hoping would be good about this team were good for one day.
Do we give CJ Stroud credit for like the old Dan Orlovsky? Because I think he might have stepped out before he got touched, but he was definitely he was pretty close in there in the back of the end zone. I thought immediately of Orlovsky.
Yes, and that's the first thing I said. I said, did he just Orlovsky that? But the credit was given for a sack, correct?
It was.
Yeah. So leave it at that. That's leave it at that. But yeah, I mean, I was like, as soon as he broke that far back, I mean, I understand you're trying to get, you're trying to buy yourself time and you have to go as far as you can go. But I'm like, he's like running right to out of the end zone.
It was.
No, so it may have been technically an Orlovsky, but that was Landry, right? Yeah, that was Landry on the sack. So give Landry the sack. And yeah, I mean, man, just some of the, I mean, you think about like Amani Hooker not playing with some of the other people they're missing already on defense. And I know it wasn't perfect, but boy, they really had some excellent series and some stretches in this game defensively that might be as surprising as anything, given who they were playing and the limitations they had.
Well, and Will Levis was the better quarterback yesterday. He was better than C.J. Stroud was. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He played better than C.J. Stroud did. And Joe, it is kind of like when you just look, if you went box score watching yesterday, the numbers that Levis put up really, really good. The Titans get the 32 points, and they win the game, Joe, despite what I would describe as another just horrible day on special teams, particularly in the return game for Houston. And also, you gave up 8 sacks yesterday. The Texans had 8 sacks, and you still got the 32 points and won the football game. Pretty incredible.
Yeah, again, it was like everything was a big play,
Yeah.
It's like a big play for you, big play for them, big play for you, big play for them. Yeah. And you're right. I mean, he was the better quarterback yesterday. Stroud, I mean, Stroud missed some throws that surprised you, but I just thought the Titans did a really good job of keeping him uncomfortable. And again, that's just not what I expected at all from this game. So, you talk about a surprise, and also just the expectation, I think, was, the Texans. I mean, I think we were all expecting, based on Pigskin Pick'em, the Texans to win this game going away. I mean, I figured, double figures for sure. Somebody locked it down, right?
I did.
That was you. Okay.
I think it's the only pick I missed the whole weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, you did. You did dominate. Yeah. Well done. But just I mean, just kind of out of nowhere, just kind of out of nowhere. But the Levis part of it is not out of nowhere. I mean, that's 3 straight where you're seeing, especially like just some of the big time throws that, again, we've talked about many times. Like they are now, you can now expect that a little bit in every game.
Well, and it unfolded in different ways in this game. Like the throw he made to Ridley for 63 yards, that's a heck of a throw. And, Ridley's going on the post there. It was, number one, good protection on that play, which has not happened overly often with this Titans offensive line, but it did happen on that play. Got good protection. He was able to step into it. Now, some people took that throw on social media a little bit too far. They're like, how many quarterbacks can make this throw? And I was like, well, more than you think. But it was a great throw by Levis on that play. The Okonkwo one, Okonkwo just kind of got lost in coverage. I think it was actually Henry To'oTo'o that got sucked in from Houston on that play, and then Chig just outran everybody. So that was good to see him kind of have that explosiveness after that. The NWI touchdown where he makes a great move, gets loose there. Some of these throws, the NWI throw and the Chig throw, it's not like Levis did a ton on those plays, but it was just throw after throw. Other than the pick 6, like he never really put the ball in harm's way. Like I just thought it was another good performance from him. And really, like, my general takeaway from this, Joe, is like, if you're a Titans fan viewing this, I'm sure that we'll hear from people that are upset about getting a win in the draft and all that today. When they got their second win against New England, you could tell how much that meant to Brian Callahan. He got emotional after the game. It had been a long process. But even that game, Joe, it was like, all right, well, you had to go into overtime and get a struggle win against a really bad team in New England. This one, even though I'm still not overly convinced how good Houston is, this one is a divisional win on the road. And perhaps more importantly than just the win, Joe, you look like a good football team while doing it. Like, not perfect. Like, their offensive line still has some issues. Levis, for as well as he played, definitely had some plays where he was to blame for the sack. And, Ross Tucker was talking about that on the broadcast yesterday. I think he blamed Levis for like 5 of the 8 sacks. So there's still some work to do there. Special teams obviously continues to be an absolute train wreck for this team. So it's not perfect.
Sure.
But by and large, like, it was a good game. You played well. Your offense looked like a competent NFL offense. And I think if you're a Titans fan, watching that yesterday was a pretty nice change of pace, at least to me.
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. Because you're right. Houston, I mean, they are disappointing to some extent this year. They're still going to win the division. I mean, I just saw them a couple weeks ago. They should have beat, one of the best couple teams in the league, and they just didn't. But I mean, like, they are still, to me, very capable, very talented. They had most of their players back yesterday. So, I mean, you're right. There's a huge difference between, congrats on limping through a win over New England and going down there and winning. And obviously, there's the ownership difference too.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, there's that. Not sure how much that matters to the people, actually playing the football, but obviously it matters to the people paying them.
Yep, no doubt about it. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. The Titans get a 32-27 win against Houston. Will Levis with a third consecutive game where he plays well, and the Titans get above that 30-point mark, baby. It's time to celebrate here today on Robby and Rexrode. We'll take more of your thoughts on the Titans. We'll get a little bit deeper into Will Levis's performance coming up next as well. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Felt great. Yeah, it didn't even hit me until after the game. I was about to throw the jersey in the wash, and I was like, actually, let's hold on to that one. So that was a cool moment to get down here, play the top team in the division right now away, and get the win. Gives us a lot of confidence going forward.
That's Will Levis after the game yesterday. Titans win 32-27. They take down Houston on the road, get to 3-8 on the season. Will Levis, 18 of 24, 278 yards through the air, 2 touchdown passes, 1 interception, a quarterback rating of 123.3 yesterday for the Titans down in Houston. And Joe, that's 3 games in a row that, while not perfect, largely pretty darn good for Will Levis. And yesterday, again, I thought especially in the first half, just making some great decisions with the ball, putting the ball accurately where it needs to be. I mean, at one point, what was he, like 11 for 11 at one point yesterday to begin the game, throwing the football? So you had that. Again, it wasn't perfect. There was the pick 6, and it was not great from Levis on the pick 6. So it's not like it was a flawless performance yesterday. We brought up the sacks, 8 sacks that the Titans gave up, which the fact that they got sacked 8 times and were still able to score 32 points and win the game is pretty incredible yesterday. But all in all, I think another really good step, another really good performance from Will Levis. And as you said, Joe, that's 3 in a row now. So it starts to make you look at it and say, all right, well, what does this mean? The first part of the year, we all know it. He was bad. The quarterback play was bad. The offense in general was bad. And ever since he's come back in from injury, I think you have to be pretty encouraged by what you've seen from Will Levis. Another positive step, doing it on the road yesterday against a divisional opponent. But I think, and somebody just pointed this out on the text line, like Will Levis starting to raise some eyebrows here of, all right, that's 3 pretty good performances in a row. Has something clicked for him as he started to figure something out here in Brian Callahan's offense in this scheme coming back from injury? 3 pretty good performances in a row.
Yeah, I mean, like it's you can't ignore it. There's definitely progress being made, and so the discussion changes. It doesn't have to change completely. Like, oh, he's definitely the guy. I don't think anybody would say that still, but now he enters the legitimate arena of to make a third choice for next year, right? I would say a month ago, it's like it's either going to be a rookie or a veteran.
Yeah.
Well, I think Levis is playing his way into. You have to consider, he's the third option. Now again, I think Levis is part of a competition is something that could be interesting. But if you're going to sign one of these veterans that would actually be, or sign or trade for a veteran that would actually be coveted, then that person probably still has a pretty significant edge on him. But you can talk yourself into, next year, would they be better off trying to build around and then another chance for him to keep going? I mean, again, these games to come are going to help answer that one way or the other. Someone on the text line who's been comparing him to Trubisky light or whatever, says that he's did something Trubisky never could, 3 good games in a row. So there you go. If he's moved past, has he moved past Mitch Trubisky? Trubisky had some moments. It's not like he was like just total trash from start to finish, right?
I think he did make the playoffs once, didn't he? I think.
Yeah, he did with that team with that ridiculous defense. But still, he was a quarterback.
Well, no, that's what Titans fans have been waiting for. Give me somebody who's better than Mitch Trubisky. Congratulations.
Yeah.
You might have it.
There's your bar. Yeah.
No, like in all seriousness, I think you have to be encouraged by what you've seen. Now, I'm with you. Like, by no means after these last 3 weeks am I willing to say, well, the Titans have found their guy, because I still have some big questions about him moving forward. But I think it does speak well to him in terms of responding the way that he has these last 3 weeks, right? Like, we all know it was really bad to begin this year. And he gets out with the injury. He's finally healthy enough to come back and play. And for whatever reason, since he's come back from the injury, I don't know if it's the game slowing down for him. I don't know if it's being more comfortable in the offense. I don't know if it's just a matter of I think yesterday was his 17th start. So we're now starting to get into, that quote
Full year.
unquote full season part of this. But
Yep.
he's making better decisions with the ball. For the most part, he's been accurate. And that's the other thing. Like, he's not missing a ton of throws. Now, again, it's not perfect, but he's not missing on a ton of throws. And we're going to get into this a little bit later too, Joe, but I thought Brian Callahan called an exceptional game yesterday. I thought his play calling was really, really good. And, you look at the way the ball kind of was spread around yesterday. Boyd had 6 catches, which was good to see him, get involved in the offense. Ridley had 5, a couple of huge plays from Nick Westbrook and Keeney. Like, you're only talking about 18 completions yesterday, but you're talking about 11.6 per catch. Like, it's a pretty good offensive output for Levis yesterday. And again, like, even the pick 6, right? Like, he throws the pick 6 and it's a bad play, and they come back on the next drive and they score. It's the touchdown to Chig down the field. So, the ability for not just him, but really the whole team, the offense, to respond after that, when it would have been easy, given the way that the season is gone, just to say, crap. Well, there's the pick 6 and it starts to go the other way on you, and Houston's got all the momentum to come back and respond to that. Not only offensively with the big play to Chig, but you get to stop defensively. Fairbairn misses the gimme field goal, which was amazing. He's had a great year, but he missed that chip shot of a field goal. And then you come up with a couple of huge plays defensively to get a stop. Like, even before the field goal, Jeffrey Simmons made a huge play up the middle there to get after CJ Stroud, drew the holding penalty. And then obviously you get the safety the next drive. I just thought the whole team kind of responded really well when it could have gone the other way on him a couple of times yesterday.
Yeah, it does take some luck, like you said, the Fairbairn, even the Chig play. I mean, Houston made some really bad mistakes in this game to kind of help you out, but I agree, especially just being able to come back and keep making plays after that pick 6, because that certainly at that moment, I mean, I don't know if you've seen, there's the slowdown of the, like, Levis, as soon as he throws it, he kind of puts his head down and just sprints to try to, it's like, oh man, like, how do you come back from that? But they did. So I guess that's sort of representative of this season. How do you come back from the beginning of the season if you're Will Levis? He has. And then in this game, he was able to do it. Not just him, them, but that's a big deal to me to make that mistake and then just, keep making big plays. Houston helped out, no doubt about it. I mean, Houston just in the fact that they only got 260 yards too, by the way, in this game, only had 54 offensive plays, 4.8 yards per play. Couldn't run the ball at all. And that's by the way, if you've been watching Houston this year, I mean, of all the things that happened in this game, if you've been watching Houston this year, Joe Mixon's a huge addition to Houston this year. He's been a fantastic player, 14 carries for 22 yards. So, some of it was the Titans taking some things away that other teams have not been able to. Some of it was the Texans helping. But overall, the Titans persevering, I think, is a big deal. I mean, it just and I've seen some of this in the text line, but I think teams don't get they're just at some point, yes, you like the high draft pick and all that stuff, but at some point you got to learn how to win with a group, and you got to demonstrate you can do it and kind of repeat the behavior. So to me, this is a big deal for these guys moving forward to be able to win a game like this.
Let's go to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Adam in Portland. Adam, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
What's up, Robby, dude? Hey, I'm sick of people saying Jarvis Brownlee isn't a backup and an okay backup. He's a good player, dude. Like, he was a good pickup right there. Just good in the bad yesterday, dude. Offensively, I don't think we could have drawn that up any better as far as the leaning on Tony Pollard and mixing him in right. Chig, I didn't even know he played on our team anymore. And then all these receivers contributing. Boyd, I saw him a lot. I'm like, this is awesome, dude. And then to do this against Autry and Alshire on the other side, and it just felt good, man. I don't care that, we're going to slide up the draft board or whatever it is. Like, I want to feel good about my football team. I thought that looked really good. I thought Levis looked confident. I'm not even mad that he threw the pick. I am, and I know you're going to kill him already, but can we fire the special teams coordinator after a win? I don't know if it's possible. Same thing with the QB coach. I don't even know who it is, but like, I don't think whatever Levis is doing right now is a direct reflection of him. I think standing in a pocket's absolutely a QB coach. So I don't know. Can you please talk about those two guys? Because I'm a little sick of them.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. Appreciate it. I mean, I do, like in the aftermath of this, you know, Jeffrey Simmons was talking about this yesterday. Will Levis talked about it on the field with CBS after the game. You know, they were very quick in the post-game comments yesterday, Joe, to talk about Amy Adams Strunk and how this win was for her and all those things.
Yep.
And, you know, we know what the game against Houston means to the Adams family. So I would imagine that Amy Adams Strunk is feeling pretty good today, Joe. And it's a good thing, I think, for Colt Anderson that she is, because I will say, had they lost that game and the special teams continue to be the absolute freaking disaster that it is every single week, I do think there's a chance he might have been fired today had they lost.
Yeah, you may be right. Yeah, you come right out and it's just right away. And that's the thing. Again, when you think about the final outcome of this game and some of the things the Titans did bad, the 8 sacks, the pick 6, and also, 80-yarder to start.
Yes.
Right. It's just it's pretty amazing they end up winning because they did some of the things that have just been consistently holding them back. But yeah, you may be right. I don't know, on the QB coach front there. I don't know. Is that who gets the blame when the QB's bad, has a bad sense in the pocket? I mean, that is something they work with him on.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's true. But also, I feel like if you have a good QB play in a game, which Levis certainly, you take away that pick, what's his rating? About close to perfect?
It'd be pretty close.
I think does that count for the QB coach or no?
I say so. Like it all counts. Put it all in there, baby. I'm here for it. By the way, if you're wondering where the Titans have now slid in the draft order, because we have gotten a couple questions about that, Joe. Titans are now number 6 picking in the draft.
Boy.
Jacksonville,
boy.
New York Giants, the Raiders, the Patriots, and the Panthers, who, by the way, almost took down Kansas City yesterday, all above the Titans right now.
Yeah, and by the way, just like Will Levis, Bryce Young seems like he maybe can play football a little bit. Just saying.
Looking a little better. 615-737-1025, our phone number. More reaction to Will Levis's day in Houston yesterday. Titans win 32-27. Take more of your thoughts at 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We're taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. Our phone number, our phone and text lines, as always, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line. Welcome in Lance. Lance, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
We're good, man.
Well, what I'd like to say is this: if Levis keeps playing the way he's playing, me personally, I think we ought to give him another year, and let's build us a football team. Let's get in that draft and pick us a good lineman and look and see if we can get an edge rusher and kind of build it the way Detroit did, and then go back and get if it doesn't work out, go back and get us a Goff or a Sam Darnoldson or whatever the guy's name is. Go back to winning some football games. But he looked pretty good yesterday, except dying down that corner, that receiver and throwing that interception. He needs to get rid of the ball a little bit faster, but that's all learning. And maybe if he had a line, he wouldn't get sacked 8 times. So I'll just hang up this.
Yep. Thanks for calling, Lance. Appreciate it. I mean, Joe, I think the bottom line is Levis, to his credit, is making the conversation interesting, right? Like he's making the conversation more interesting than what we saw earlier in the year. Like, you ask a Titans fan 3 weeks ago, I think we'd all know that it was pretty bad. But right now, Levis, to his credit, is making this interesting, and he is putting himself in a position where I'm really fascinated to see how he finishes out the season here. You're talking about 3 pretty good performances in a row. And if this just is what he is from here on out in the regular season, then I think the Titans are certainly going to have kind of an interesting process on their hands as they evaluate quarterback heading into the offseason, whether it's via draft, via free agency, whatever the plan was going to be. I'm really interested to see if Levis continues on this track here, how he influences that.
Before I respond to that, did he just call Sam Darnold Sam Donaldson? Did I hear that?
I think
correctly?
you might have.
Shout out, Lance. You're my favorite call. There's no way another call today will beat you. Yeah, look, Levis has absolutely made it interesting, and yeah, it's even just seeing some of these things here. It's think about again like a month ago, and you're going back to the preseason when Brian Callahan's talking about how excited he was, and it's like, man, like what did he miss, or how have they botched this, or all these different questions about why it was going so poorly. And these games are showing that this is why. You're reminding you of the talent. I don't have a certainty or like overflowing confidence that Levis is going to put it all together. That he has everything you need to be a great quarterback in the league. But when you win a game like that, and again, when you bounce back from what you did and you make some of the throws he made, there's plenty of quarterbacks who played in the league this week who did not play as well as he did, So, I mean, it's you have to take it seriously. And like I said earlier, I mean, it's just, he's starting to enter the chat as that viable third option, which of course going into the year, that was the clear most likely path.
Well, and I think a fair question to ask, it was so bad to begin, and some of that was obviously his decisions. We've gone over the turnovers earlier in the year ad nauseum, but like in general, I do wonder, Joe, how much of this is, all right, well, there was just a lot of new to begin the season. The offense was new, the coach was new, the terminology was new, all these things. And how much of that is him now settling into that and becoming more comfortable in the offense? I don't know what the answer to that is. I am in no way qualified to give you like some percentage breakdown of what that is. But I do wonder how much of what we're seeing right now can just be directly traced to, all right, well, he's been in this offense now for a few months at a game-like setting. Maybe there's more of an understanding between he and Callahan as to what works for him, what doesn't, and we're seeing some of that pay off on the field right now.
No, I think that's a great point. I mean, you can't dismiss that. It is still, yes, this is technically like an offense he's been in before and things like that, but they're all different. Terminology is different, and people have different preferences. to the point or to the discussion earlier that Adam brought about the QB coach. I mean, this is where I do think you start with Levis in terms of his ability to keep working and to figure out a way to make plays, but also those guys working with him, right? They must be figuring some things out. And this is still happening through all the sacks, so like, and certainly the run game is helping, but again, when you have a run game like that, you shouldn't be giving up 8 sacks. And then if you give up 8 sacks, you shouldn't be winning a game against a good team on the road. But those huge plays, those big chunk plays are happening more often. Someone asking on the text line about is he better off without Hopkins? I mean, I wouldn't look at it that way necessarily, but NWI is getting downfield, is getting deep on some plays, and obviously Ridley is. It does feel like they are absolutely emphasizing, look, you got to find a way to get downfield shots because that's where he's at times special, with some of those throws. I want to read this text. My biggest holdup on praising Levis is I want to see him win the game, throwing without a great run game, doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Good QBs don't just help the team. They're the reason you win when stuff is going bad. See, I would disagree with that in terms of there was stuff going bad and some was stuff that he did. I mean, I don't think the question is, can Levis be Patrick Mahomes and just put a team on his back when they have nothing else going on, no receivers and no run game and all that stuff and stuff. He's not going to be that. You want to be a good football team. You want to run the ball and you want to support your quarterback. And most of the quarterbacks in the league doing well now have running game and or defense to some decent level, and they need all that.
Well, and apart from that,
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing. Number one, there's nothing wrong with that. But number two, even apart from that, if you're looking for that, I'll take this step in the meantime, right? Getting to this step in that process would be, I think very welcome. Devin from Dover says, all those sacks are not on the offensive line. More than a few are going to be on Levis, not having pocket awareness and stepping into defenders. I mean, there's no doubt there were some sacks yesterday where he's got to get rid of the ball. I don't know exactly how many there were. I mentioned it earlier, Ross Tucker on the CBS broadcast, I think by the 8th one, he put 4 or 5 of them on Levis. So I don't know if that's fair, unfair. That's just what he did. So, I'm interested to see what Brian Callahan's breakdown of that would be. Joe from Maryland on the text line says, still think the season comes down to if Levis is the guy, regardless of draft pick status. If you come out of the season thinking Levis is the guy, it's a success. The glaring holes on the offensive line can be attributed to the offensive deficiencies. I think if Levis can continue to develop, we'll be in a good spot. And I would agree with that. I guess one question I would have, Joe, is with the start of the season being as poor as it was, can you really reach a point this year where you're convinced he's the guy? I don't know if you can reach that point. I don't know if they're going to walk out of here knowing that he's the guy. But if he continues to play like this, like I said earlier to begin the segment, he makes it really interesting in terms of what their decision is going to be. And as somebody else has pointed out, if the Titans are really torn and with some of the things we talked about last week, and they're looking at this upcoming draft class at quarterback, and they're not especially blown away with anything that they see there, I do think if Levis continues to play like this the last 3 weeks, it does make it a lot easier at that point, Joe, to look at it and say, well, we're not necessarily in love with any of the quarterbacks in the draft. We could go the free agency route, but there's not a ton of great options there. Let's just run it back with him one more year.
Right. What does another offseason do with him and all these people together, and some of these receivers? What does that continuity do? Yeah, the Levis is definitely the guy. I mean, I guess if he's just unbelievably great the rest of the year, right? I mean, if he basically has his game yesterday, yes, some of those sacks were on him, but if he has the game he had yesterday minus the pick six over and over again, okay, then again, the conversation will continue to sort of creep in that direction. I mean, but right now, I think what you just said is probably most likely, and this is what the Titans still, of course, they need to be evaluating the QB class as if they're drafting one, and they're, veterans move, as we know, like never before in this league. So that's always a possibility. But yeah, I mean, the conversation is drifting toward that, okay, maybe you fix this, then you see what he does as he continues to progress, which you presume he's going to do. What does that look like?
615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll take more of your thoughts on Will Levis and the Titans' performance yesterday in Houston. Plus, there was one part of the game yesterday that I was just really, really impressed with that I think is a good sign moving forward. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. This week's Nashville's best deal is Prince's Hot Chicken, the original and iconic hot chicken joint. Get half off a $25 gift card now while supplies last at theGameNashville.com/deals. Gift card only good for the Tanger outlets in Antioch and inside Assembly Food Hall in downtown Nashville. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. Taking your thoughts on the Titans win 32-27 in Houston. Will Levis, 18 of 24, 278 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, a quarterback rating of 123.3. Joe, one thing that I was really impressed with yesterday, I thought Brian Callahan called an exceptional game. I thought his ability to keep Houston off balance defensively, mixing in the run and the pass, taking some deep shots down the field, stretching the defense out that way. I thought he called an excellent game. And look, some of the calls, like, Chig catches a ball on what was basically like a 4-yard pass and then runs 70 yards down the field, scores a touchdown. Is that a credit to play calling? I don't know. I mean, maybe it was just such a great scheme where he was that wide open. I have no idea. So, I don't want to take it like too far overboard, but in the middle of the game, I remember it and I tweeted out, like, there was a couple of drives in a row where it just felt like Houston had no idea what was coming. It was a run here where Tony Pollard would break it. Then you get into play action and have a pass there. I just thought Brian Callahan really called the game well. And Joe, it was really kind of the first time all year where I was looking around saying, man, Brian Callahan's got them absolutely on their heels right now. I thought that was really good to see for the Titans yesterday.
Yeah. And, he's had, plenty of success, I think, this year with some of the scripted drives. And then you've seen a lot of games where, or even like first half, it just feels like, if you look at their first half, second half, they've had obviously a lot of low scoring second halves. They had that 17-point ceiling on them. It has seemed like it's kind of faded during some of these games, right? And yesterday they just kept coming up with answers. So no, I think it was a big step. I mean, the bigger thing is just getting that win. Talk about if you want to impress your boss, the person who pays you, if you're the coach of the Tennessee Titans, go beat a heavily favored Houston Texans team on the road.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good way to do it. But I'm with you. I thought it was a very well called game, and I think you certainly see good things. And, look, you can find, and you could probably do this with a lot of people, but there are a lot of plays this year that I think have been designed, have been there to be made, that have been betrayed by the offensive line or whatever. You can blame Levis on some of those sacks, but I mean, on pass protection, blowing things up. I mean, how many plays have been there, have been drawn up well,
yeah,
and then they didn't happen. But that's also, though, it's on the play caller to then figure that out, move the pocket or whatever, play more quick game, whatever it is. You have to figure out your personnel weaknesses and call around that and still figure a way to get the ball in the playmaker's hands. And it feels like that's getting better too, as Levis is getting better.
By the way, how about old Petit Frere yesterday? Now look, they gave up 8 sacks.
He had one sack that was atrocious.
Yeah, I have no idea what his PFF grade is going to end up being, but he did have one very nice pancake block when they got him out on the edge out there. That on the replay, it was pretty loud block from MPF. I was like, hey man, good for you. I'm not sure you've made a positive play all year, but man, great pancake block getting out on the edge there. A lot of people pointed that out on the text line so far.
Sure.
Way to go,
he goes out there. He had some good pass pro reps too. I mean, but again, we've talked about that. It's like, you can go back last year and watch Andre Dillard and you can find more good, or at least more competent snaps than disastrous snaps, right? Way more. But, you mix in a few of those real bad ones and that's enough to lose a football game. But yeah, I mean, look, Petit Frere, he's who they're going with. So there was, certainly one sack to me that was on him.
Oh, yeah.
That was, that was kind of on brand Petit Frere pass pro. But hey, he's big. Go take it out on somebody too. Make some plays yourself.
Hey, they looked good out there on that one play specifically. Tyler on the text line says, I feel like people are falling for fool's gold with Levis. He's played better, but his ceiling is a low-level starter at absolute best. I think he settles in as a mediocre backup that will kill you with a terrible pick, a.k.a. Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston catching some strays from Tyler on the text line.
Yeah.
Says he doesn't have the poise. Talks about, in the pocket, half tick slow, first read open, playing better, but he's not the guy, all that stuff. What do you make of that text from Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, it's so you've got that, and then let's see, let's go with the biggest Levis support. Dustin from Hopkinsville is like, this is it. I mean, he's, he may not be Mahomes, but he's Josh Allen if he continues progressing. And if you have an arm like him, at some point, you start putting this team on his back. So
Now we're
hey,
talking.
let the debate rage. Meanwhile, this texter I was referencing earlier is screaming at me about that we're dumb, and I'm dumb, and I'm going to pay Levis $55 million. I'm not saying that, but he asked who. I said sub-average quarterbacks. Look, $55 million. Let's just understand, like 3 years from now will be like a discount. I mean, Tua is getting 53. Okay,
Yeah,
Tua is getting 53, and Trevor Lawrence is getting 55. So again, are those guys more accomplished, more established, and better than Levis? Yes, but they are also not great quarterbacks who put teams on their back, right?
no, and
that's all I'm.
and
That's
to
all
be
I'm
clear,
saying.
like we're still, I think, a long way away from that, right? Like, and I think you would agree with
Yes.
that. Like, we're a long way
Yes.
away from Levis
So
playing
I tried to
himself
say that.
into the next
Yeah.
into the next contract, but that is part of the decision here of whether it's going to be him or you're going in a different direction. Eventually, if you do find that guy, even if they're not Patrick Mahomes, that's going to be the going rate for quarterback. I mean, we talked about that heading into the year. Like, Levis can be an average quarterback, and sometimes average quarterbacks end up making that money. I think Trevor Lawrence is a perfect example of that. Now, he was also the number one overall pick, and there's a lot that goes into that. But look, quarterback right now, it's a really interesting time because there is the Daniel Jones side of this. Like, what you don't want to have happen is if you're like the Giants and you make the decision to pay the quarterback, and then it becomes pretty evident that you made a huge mistake on that front, and now you're sitting here in scramble mode trying to get out of that. Like, that is going to be interesting moving forward, not just with the Titans, but league wide. Of all right, these quarterbacks are making a lot of money, and in some cases, you don't even have to be like your top tier quarterbacks. You're just pretty good. What's the balance between paying a pretty good quarterback and then trying to get back in the wilderness of finding an answer elsewhere?
Yeah. In the meantime, whatever you do there, keep building the team.
Yeah.
Keep building the team around, because you need edge and you need coverage, you need blockers. I mean, you need receivers, you need playmakers. But yeah, look, I mean, Daniel Jones 2 years ago was good. He was good. They won a playoff game in Minnesota, and he looked like he was progressing. So, I mean, that was like really a full season of, oh my gosh, Brian Daboll has fixed this kid, and he actually is good. And then they paid him, and he's not. So you can be full. My whole thing is like the texture there where it's like, this whole, like, his absolute ceiling. You don't know that. He's just Tyler. You don't, just like Dustin is, convinced he's going to be great. I mean, to keep an open mind. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't think that there's anything with Levis that it's not impossible for him to put it all together. Like, I still wouldn't predict that. Like, I wouldn't predict him to become a great quarterback in the league, but I also can't sit here and say absolutely low-level starter at best. I don't know that. You don't know that.
Right. 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. More on the Titans 32-27 win against the Houston Texans coming up next. We'll have Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com at 7:30. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser, intern Robert here with you on this Monday morning. We are broadcasting live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com will be with us at 7:30. He was live in Houston. We'll get PK's thoughts on the Titans' big win against the Texans yesterday. Corey Curtis from News 2 will be with us for his weekly visit coming up at 8 o'clock as well. So all that ahead. A lot of your thoughts that we've already taken on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Keep those coming, 615-737-1025. And by the way, shout out to our YouTubers. The YouTube chat is flowing today. Keep them coming on the Robby and Rexrode YouTube stream that you can find on youtube.com right now. 615-737-1025. Titans 32, Texans 27. And I said it earlier, not only getting the win, which, look, I know when you're 2-8 heading into a game, getting a win to a lot of fans is like, okay, well, great. What does it actually mean at the end of the day? I think just as important as getting the win, at least for me yesterday, that was an enjoyable football product to watch. That was an enjoyable 3 hours of time that I invested watching this team play a game. And I don't know how often we've been able to say that over the course of the last couple of years here. Even in some of the games that they've won, like that New England game. Yeah, okay. You won 20-17 in overtime against one of the worst teams in the league. And it was like an absolute slugfest to try to get there. That Miami Monday night game, Titans got over 30 points in that game too. Was that an enjoyable game to watch? I don't think so. I just think it was one of those things where you're playing a Tyler Huntley-led Dolphins team that it ended up being so bad on the other side that you got your way into 30 points that way. Yesterday was legitimately enjoyable to watch. It was legitimately enjoyable to invest 3 hours of my time to watch that team play football. And Joe, that might be my biggest takeaway. I don't know when the last time, I guess the last time I legitimately enjoyed watching the Titans play football was probably the season finale last year in Derrick Henry's last game. That's probably the last time where I was like, yep, you know what? That was fun. And yesterday was fun to watch the Titans play.
It's a good primary takeaway. Just like actually fun football to watch. And, so I guess it was a wild game. So, wild games are fun. And so the Titans made plenty of mistakes too in the wild game. But even with that, although, as we've already talked about, special teams is consistently bad. The defense still also made huge, loud plays too. But yeah, just to be able to just get into a game like that and go toe to toe and battle, it's just been it's in calendar years. It's been 2 years plus of just hard to watch offensive football. And I don't think you are either, proclaiming that that's over. No. And now it's just, this is the new reality. But boy, was that a pleasant surprise on a Sunday afternoon.
No doubt about it. So a couple of takeaways on the defensive side of things, Joe. Again, we spent the majority of the show talking about what we saw offensively. It wasn't perfect defensively either, but, a couple of big turnovers in the game. Kenneth Murray comes up with an interception. Jarvis Brownlee comes up with an interception in the game as well. You had Tavondre Sweat get his first sack. So he gets after the quarterback, makes a good play, gets a sack. Obviously the safety at the end of the game, which was, I think we've determined, halfway Orlovski'd by C.J. Stroud in the back of the end zone. Not perfect defensively, but some big plays too. On the drive near the end of the game where Fairbairn misses the kick, the chip shot field goal, which would have tied the game, by the way. In the game, who knows how it plays out if he hits that field goal. I thought Jeffrey Simmons had a couple of rushes up the middle on that drive that were really, really good. He draws the holding penalty, and that ends up being a huge play in that drive. So, they gave up 27 points. One of those was a pick six, so you have to factor that in too. Not a perfect day for the defense, but I thought some big plays and some big moments, which I don't know that we've seen enough of that from the Titans defense this year, coming up with some big plays and big moments, and they were able to do that yesterday.
Yeah, look, and this is a bit of a trend here for Simmons too, right? I mean, he is playing better football.
Yep.
We talked earlier about how much of what we're seeing is Levis finally, the system and all that stuff. That happens on defense too, by the way, right? I mean, a lot of the things you do that like defense, and disguising, pressures and things like that, and twists, and there's timing. There's a lot of things that go into that too. But ultimately, I just feel like he's just looks more like himself here in terms of what he's doing. Of course, Big T Sweat gets the sack. The spin doctor at 2:00 will struggle with that. I'm sure we'll find a way to discredit it. But
he finally hit the quarterback. He finally hit the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, and Brownlee, look, you can't tell me Brownlee's not a good player. I mean, as a fifth round pick, Brownlee is a very good pick. Again, like if you in the fifth round can get a guy of that quality who is, to me, I think he's an NFL starting level cornerback. I do. I think that's what he's going to be. I mean, that's great value, So they get some things that are coming around. LD on the I think this take makes a lot of sense. I don't necessarily agree, but he says, I couldn't care less if it's Levis or a veteran next season. Just don't draft a QB. I'd like to see OL edge wide receiver. I get that. Like the idea of like, man, you have so many other needs. If you go in on that, then you're just going to be, now you're bringing that guy in,
yeah,
and you don't have what you need around that guy. But at the same time, again, if your evaluation is, oh my God, Cam Ward is going to be the next great player, and that's what it is, right? You have to go as deep as you can go on these guys to know. And I just took this to Draft Talk on a rare Titans victory, and an even more rare Titans 30-point Monday.
Yeah, I mean that combo has not happened very often over the last few years here. The draft part of it is interesting because regardless of where they end up, and look, we said this a couple weeks ago when the Titans beat the Patriots. I was like, oh my gosh, they went from like number 2 to number 9 or whatever it was in the draft, and then they got all the way back down to 2, and now they're at 6, and who knows where they end up at the end of the year. But if you're in position to draft a quarterback, like I don't know that there's anything Levis can realistically do the rest of this year, Joe, where you don't take a serious look at the quarterback in the draft. That doesn't mean you draft one, but like the idea of the Titans approaching this of, oh, well, there's no way we're taking a quarterback. I don't know that that's going to be realistic heading into this offseason. I am with you, though, like in an ideal world, whether it's Levis or elsewhere, like we've talked about this, they need another wide receiver. They need an edge rusher. They need a right tackle. I mean, there's a lot of things that this team is going to need as they move forward here. So, like, if you're not totally blown away with one of these quarterbacks and Levis continues to play this way, like, it's not the worst thing in the world to have him come back as your quarterback next season. Now, again, there's still a big difference in that and him being the long-term answer at quarterback. Like, I still think, regardless of how he's played the last 3 weeks, and it's been encouraging to see, we're still a long, long way away to me from determining that he's the long-term answer at quarterback. Like, there's a lot that he's still going to have to do to get close to that conversation.
Right. He just comes back under contract next year and you keep going. That's just something that to me now is starting to gain some legs. But yeah, the contract talk, I mean, and that's the benefit you have. And the thing is with the NFL now, as we always talk about these veterans and stuff, it is different. It used to be like, I think the wilderness was just draft related. The search was draft related, and there is a lot more swapping back and forth and guys becoming available who at least can be good, pretty good quarterbacks for you. And look, in this league, I'll continue to say, Jared Goff is a good quarterback who looks like a great one because of what's around him. That's my belief. I don't think he's actually great. I think he's good and he looks great because of the team around him. And so I think you can get guys like that down the road if you need to do it. Or, in 26, of course, if this is just a little brief little sugar high right now and things are going to revert back to how Levis played early in the year and this team's going to lose a lot, then the 26 class is much better. So I just the Levis as just to keep it going next year and then build around and see if he can keep developing and developing. I think that it's starting to become a conversation again. The contract is a non-starter conversation.
Joe, real quickly, you bring up Brownlee, and I agree. It's not perfect from him either, right? Like he got smoked by Nico Collins yesterday one time too, and that's going to happen with him. But I largely, I think he's playing well, and certainly where he was drafted, I think there's a lot to be encouraged about with him. And boy, do they need him too, because one thing that we've not brought up yet that happened over the weekend, L'Jarius Sneed to IR. So we know that now with yesterday, with that game included, he'll miss at least the next 3 as they move forward.
Yeah, basically we're going to go through this season not having seen what this amazing corner group looks like, And again, I think Brownlee and McCreary, and then they've had some other guys who actually have done pretty good stuff. I mean, Baker's done some good stuff, but they've been able to cobble together a decent performance still, but we're not going to see it this year, which again, that's and the whole pros and cons of the front office. I mean, that's a huge con, right?
Yep.
And I mean, all you can do there is just hope that his legs aren't just dissolving underneath him right now, and that you'll be able to get him to play football for you again. But that's a big. Did Gaharski explain why he went on IR? We'll have him at 7:30. He can tell us why it was important for him to go on IR now, because he's very adamant he shouldn't have gone on IR.
Yeah, 32-27, the final score yesterday. Titans take down the Houston Texans. We'll have more coming up on the Titans win from yesterday. A lot more of your thoughts to get to as well. Keep them coming. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com will be with us at 7:30. We'll get his thoughts on all things Tennessee Titans. Titans 32, Texans 27. Big win for Tennessee. I'm sure Amy Adams-Strunk was thrilled yesterday, taking down the Texans in Houston. Joe got some takes for you in the text line. You ready for them? Here's Josh on the text line. Says, hot take. Titans can still win the division. I think we can beat the Jags twice, the Colts one more time. And in Week 18, it could be flexed to Sunday Night Football. Your win, you're in. This is from Josh on the text line. Throwing it out there that the division is still alive for the Tennessee Titans. Joe, your thoughts? Joe, his first mute of the day.
Sorry, I muted myself. I was slurping this coffee with such desperation that I didn't. Yeah, thank you. Hey, what is it? What really matters when it comes down to it? Math, right? Math is the one thing that we can all agree on, and the math says he's not wrong.
True.
So I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue it.
I mean, they're still mathematically alive. That's the only thing. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons laid it out last week in the locker room. He said the path is still there for the division. So one step taken care of yesterday against Houston. Maddie on the text line. D-Hop appears to have been an anchor on our offense for some nutty reason. But my theory is that he gobbled up reps from our future Ring of Honor inductee, NWI. He's been my daughter's favorite player for 2 years now. He's an amazing role model in his personal life. I'm glad he's earning his 15 minutes of fame this year. This is from Maddie on the text line. Future Ring of Honor inductee. I love that.
I love it. Yeah, I love the second part of that text. There's definitely too much. I mean, I get it. Like when things start to go well, and if someone's gone, then it's like, well, maybe they were the problem. I don't think that's the case with D-Hop. I mean, it's, the whole thing was bad. I mean, I really don't think, addition by subtraction. Get out of here, D-Hop. Now, I do, though, agree that NWI more opportunities. NWI makes plays. I mean, the double move he made.
That's pretty nice.
On the TD. I mean, that wasn't just like a coverage bust. That was him destroying a dude. And it was like, thanks, here, arm punt it to me, and it's a touchdown, right? So, I mean, he's a good player. He's got more than 15 minutes of fame, Maddie. I mean, NWI on this program, NWI has been a superstar for years.
Well, they tried. They were backed up again yesterday. They tried the deep shot to him again. I don't think it would have been a 98-yarder this time. I think it would have been like a 96-yarder. They tried it again, Joe. They were backed up and chucked it deep to NWI in the second half. Yeah,
man. I mean, hey. So I guess if it's addition by subtraction by the addition of NWI, then I'll allow it. But I don't think, like D-Hop, D-Hop was just like everybody else. Like, gosh, I wish they could block for him. Like, gosh, I wish the quarterback would stop giving it to the other team, et cetera, et cetera. Please throw me the ball.
Yeah.
And he was hurt early too. Let's remember that. Like, he was limited. I mean, he had a TD yesterday, right? He had another good game with the Chiefs. I mean, he's fine. And D-Hop's a pro. I mean, D-Hop comes into a place. He's a pro. He and Levis had a good relationship. Like, that's, it's not there. Also, A.J. Brown looked pretty good last night. Sorry to bring it up. It's okay to bring it up after a win, right?
We did have somebody on the YouTube chat just say, just imagine how many games they'd be winning if they still had Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown. I look at the we had this text come up earlier too. Like, had you just beaten the Chicago Bears, had you not had the bad turnover, and had you found a way to take down Joe Flacco and the Indianapolis Colts, while you wouldn't be feeling great right now, you would be at 5-6, and 5-6 with the Texans at 7-5, and how up and down they've been this year. We would be talking about their chances to creep back into this thing and legitimately win the division.
Yeah, no doubt. No, I mean, but that's. Most in this league, like at the end of the year, just about any team can look back on a 3 or 4 close losses, or you look back on some close wins where it's like, geez, could have easily lost that game and that game and that game, right? I mean, woulda, coulda, shoulda. But hey, the math is there. Just win out. We're talking a flex into Sunday, because the last game is that the Texans in Nashville, right?
I think so. I need to go back and pull up the schedule, but I believe that is correct. That is correct.
Just count on that Sunday night flex, guys.
Give the people what they want.
All you got to do is win 5 games in a row to get to that.
Yeah, no big deal. Joey from Bellevue says, NWI inspires me to buy a Honda Civic, something always reliable. Now we got NWI inspiring car purchases after his reliable performance, Joe.
Well, I had a Mazda GLC in my first car. It was a very old Mazda GLC, and that thing lasted for like another 10 years almost. So I'm just saying there's something to be said for that for sure.
I am interested, in all seriousness, I would assume that they're going to try to extend him this offseason. I'm interested to see what that looks like because other than last week where he has the 98 yarder and he ends up with over 100 yards, it's not like the numbers that he's putting up or anything really all that special or astronomical. He is scoring a lot of touchdowns. Like, you can pretty much bank that he's going to score a touchdown per game right now with the way that he's playing. I am very interested to see, number one, how the Titans view what his contract should be, because he's basically been like, here's a 1-year deal here, here's a 1-year deal there. Do they try to go a little bit more long term with NWI, and if so, what does that money look like? We all know it's not going to break the bank, it's not going to be some really expensive contract, but I do think he is earning perhaps a multi-year deal with a pretty significant raise. Joe Rexrode, I think he deserves that this offseason.
I totally agree. Now, also Vrabel's texting him every day. Hey, man, be ready. Be ready. Don't sign anything. Don't talk to anybody. Just be ready because I'm coming back, baby.
A group text between Vrabel, Tannehill, NWI, and Jack Gibbons. I'd love to be a part of that.
Aaron Brewer.
Yeah.
Is Aaron Brewer in there somewhere?
Brewer's definitely in there too, no doubt.
Just he's listed as TATDS, tough as a $2 steak.
Yes. Just code words. Hey, again, Vrabel, you're here Friday. If you're listening right now, feel free to call in. Join the program. We'd love to have your thoughts. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com will be with us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans 32-27 win down in Houston. We'll have the Rob Rant coming up at 7:45. Corey Curtis from News 2 at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser, intern Robert here with you. Titans take down the Texans on the road, 32-27. And to help us talk more about that, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our man, Paul Kuharsky from PaulKuharsky.com. PK, good morning. How are you?
Morning, guys. I'm doing just fine.
Appreciate you taking time to be with us. So, PK, I thought a really enjoyable game to watch for the Titans yesterday, which has not been the case very often the last couple of years. They get the win in Houston. Will Levis with a third straight game where he plays pretty well, minus the pick six. What have you made about this 3-game stretch for him, and what did you make of the way that Levis played yesterday in Houston?
The pick six is not a good play, but it was a lot more survivable somehow than plays he's made in the past that look like that. The last 3 games, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks, 107.2 passer rating despite 20 sacks, 68% completion percentage. Looks and sounds pretty good to me for a team that's really still going to be Tony Pollard centric. Defensive football team. I mean, I don't want to do any crazy talk here, but if he started the year with 3 games like that, everybody would have been flying high. And 6 left. If he could keep trending in that direction, I think the whole tone of the conversation regarding him is going to change.
How much change? So, like right now, if you let's do the hypothetical, which I know you love, PK. You're running this team, and right now you're making a decision. And this is the only information you can have. We obviously would all agree that if he can keep stacking these games, the conversation continues to shift. But right now, what are you doing at quarterback next year?
Right now, I am not in an utter panic about quarterback, which I was previously. But right now, I prioritize other positions in terms of my draft stock, I think. I mean, we've talked about this already, and I think this was a possibility even when he was bad, that they've got 3 big holes to fill and a lot of depth issues, and they'd be better served to address those things than to force it at quarterback if they don't see somebody they love. If they win a couple more, they're going to be out of range for top quarterbacks in this draft anyway, which don't seem to be major solution guys. If you told me if the season ended right now, maybe I got too much recency bias, but I'd be all right with a better veteran than Mason Rudolph in a competition situation for the starting quarterback, and with them addressing right tackle, edge rusher, young wide receiver, safety, and depth across the board.
So, PK, on the Levis front, number one, I thought Callahan called an outstanding game yesterday with how he kept Houston off balance. But on the Levis conversation as a whole, how much of what we've seen the last 3 weeks do you think can be directly traced to, all right, he spent about half a season now with Callahan. They've gotten better in terms of their understanding of each other. Callahan's gotten more proficient at knowing what works for Levis, what doesn't work. How much of it is simply that, the familiarity with each other that's now starting to creep in halfway through a season?
I mean, it's got to be a decent degree. I mean, we still have conversations about mastering the mundane and doing all of that, but he's chucking the ball downfield again. These throws to Westbrook. I mean, I know that to Ridley. I know the one to Chig was more a play that kind of exploded with the yards after catch. But the last couple weeks, we had this conversation after a month. Where are the wow throws? And they kind of made it like that. Yeah, that's not what we're doing anymore. Well, they're doing it again now. And, for 2 weeks, it only produced 15 points a game. But yesterday, it was a lot better looking 32 points than it was, 31 when they beat like a minor league version of the Dolphins. And so, and that's obviously the most, the 2 wins before count, but beating that version of the Dolphins and the Patriots is nothing like beating the Texans, who, aren't great right now.
So we've had, look, it doesn't take much, PK, for people to get excited. I know you were in the locker room and Jeff Simmons is talking, making a run. Hey, if you're these guys in this team, of course you want as much hope as possible. And as long as the math says you're still in it, you're still in it. I will say, guys, that, the Commanders, the next game, and they have kind of fallen on hard times, a little bit of reality for them. Still a very tough game for the Titans. If the Titans find a way in this next game, it's Jaguars at home, Bengals at home, at Colts, at Jaguars before the finale against the Texans. I mean, I don't think they're going to win this week, right? But I will say, like, that stretch is, the way this team is playing, like, that stretch is actually kind of inviting. Am I talking myself into something crazy here?
Well, not in terms of the schedule. You're not, but in terms of their ability to do something with it, you may be. They haven't won back-to-back games since Denver and Green Bay 2 calendar years ago.
Is that all?
So, yeah, that's all. That's a monumental climb for a team that's taken some real baby steps. Jeff saying, teams remember, we own the division and we still do. That's a pretty bold statement for a team that's, hasn't done anything in 2.5 years. If they win in Washington, things will get interesting. Washington's a tough game. Cincinnati's a tough game. I mean, Zach Taylor against his mentee, and Joe Burrow and Chase. I mean, I know Cincinnati's been a huge disappointment, but that's still not somebody you want to play, I don't think, in a situation where you've got to really run the table or come close to it. And I know Houston's got a tough schedule, but I'm not looking at you need a monumental collapse from them and a great run from yourself. I mean, you could conceivably go 9-8, and that wild card spot, that last wild card spot, is wide open. You'd need Denver to get out of the way, and Miami, you've got a tiebreaker over them, and they're coming on strong. But I think for one win to swing everybody into thinking the team's going to the playoffs is kind of crazy.
The PK, I will say,
just going to talk yourself into it.
Yeah, there's a lot of positivity today, deservedly so. It was fun to watch yesterday, and I have no doubt Amy Adams-Strunk feeling good today. You go down and get the win in Houston. I would love to know, PK, the alternative reality, had they lost that game yesterday, of what happens with special teams, because special teams rearing its ugly head again yesterday. You had the kickoff return to begin the game. You had the lost fumble from Jaquan Jackson. You had Jaquan Jackson fielding a punt on like the 3-yard line for some reason. I mean, special teams just continue to be an absolute tire fire for this team. I would love to know the alternative reality of them losing that game and what happens with Colt Anderson if they do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure nothing. I mean, it's been established that, in this one regard, there is no unacceptable standard. And they can't teach Cedric Gray to make a tackle or Mike Brown to stay in a safe area for when Cedric Gray doesn't make a tackle. And Jaquan Jackson's, look, we've got a lot of buzz about a lot of rookies, right? Jarvis Brownlee's been great. Latham's been very good up until yesterday. He wasn't good. But we should talk, and we're going to serve the public right now by talking a little bit about Jaquan Jackson is a bad punt returner and a bad kick returner. He goes horizontally far too often. He's fumbled far too much. It finally came back to bite them. Fumble luck. Rand Carthon, I'm sure, discussed that with Amy. And quite frankly, I don't want to hear about Amy's belt buckle, and I don't want to hear. I think the media disserves everybody by, I understand it coming from in-house, but out-of-house to write stories or give much volume to Amy crying in the locker room because it was a great win. But let's wait to write about Amy when we hear from Amy. I think that should be a blanket policy from Titans media. I don't know why we would write about an emotional win for the owner who hasn't spoken to us in 4 years or however long it's been, except when she does hostage tape with Mike Keith. Let's keep it on the players and the team and people that are quotable.
Oh, so she didn't give you a hug, and now you're bitter about it? Is that what's going on here? Well, be honest.
Oh, I just think as a media corps we could be smarter. Like, they got a nice win for her in her hometown, and she cried. I don't know why that's anything more than a sentence anywhere.
So I'm not.
No, I'm not saying for you guys. I mean,
no, it's fine. No, I don't know what you're referring to. Go ahead and name some names. You love naming names.
Oh, I think it probably got mentioned in a lot of places. It just angers me that people don't have a strategy with stuff like that.
I might have to. We may have to yell at each other about this on Wednesday. I don't agree with you. Although I have to see what you're referring to, but it's possible that we may have to have a big argument. Well, it's still newsworthy.
I mean,
it's the owner of the team.
Thing. I don't care about the emotional stories. Like, that's just not my thing. But why do we care?
Yes, you don't like humans. I know. It's not your thing. Humans aren't your thing. No, that's fine.
Why do we care that she cried? The fans have been crying for weeks because she hasn't fired the special teams coach.
Well, so guess what? That's a great line. Well, I know that's a great line. Use that line. But I mean, like, if you see something as a reporter and it's the owner actually shows up in the locker room and there's human emotion, yes, I think you should write that.
We were told about it by people who actually speak.
Oh, so it wasn't visible to you guys?
No.
Okay, then I'm on your side.
There we go. I think we came all the way back around.
We'll find something else to yell about Wednesday.
We get there at some point. PK, great stuff as always.
You think Amy Adams Strunk was visible to us and crying with her belt buckle?
That was amazing.
I can't wait to read some of these things now. Good Lord. Okay.
Man. PK, great stuff.
I mean, you're so far removed from this team now that you think the owner has visibility, but not. Isn't speaking?
I've seen her.
She's now like around, but we can't talk.
She's like, Rexrode's gone. I'm coming around all the time now.
But seriously, Nick Stuss approached her and said, "Got time for 5 quick questions to put your foot in your mouth?"
I will say real quick, Amy has been around after many games. Paul, come on. She's been around.
Yeah.
I grabbed her after that win at Kansas City. She's like, sure, I'll talk to you.
On the fringes. Yeah. That's after that win at Kansas City. Back when you used to
8 years ago.
Back when the team was good.
8 years ago.
PK, great stuff, man. Thanks for taking time to be with us, and we'll talk to you on Wednesday.
Hey, try to keep your emotions together after this win.
We will. It's going to be tough.
It's a joyfully tearful day.
That's right. Paul Kuharski.
I'm going back to bed. I did a lot of work last night. I got home from Houston. I stayed up till 1:30. I'm going back to bed.
Get you a good nap in there, PK. Wow, PK woke up just for us, Joe. How's that make you feel? That's emotional right there.
And now I regret it. It shows foolishness.
Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com.
Appreciate you.
Take care, boys.
Robby and Rexrode. He'll be with us on Wednesday breaking down all things Tennessee Titans. The Rob Rant coming up next. Corey Curtis at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
And now Auburn can win it. Backfield, Thorne looking, throws it to the back. It is caught in the back of the end zone. Rivaldo Fairweather. No. Keandre Lambert-Smith. The snap. They flip it back to Reed, rolling to his right, throws to the end zone. It's dropped. It's dropped. Auburn wins. Auburn wins. Auburn wins. 43-41. 4 overtimes. Auburn wins.
What a wild day of college football on Saturday. It's that time of the day for the Rob Rant. You can check it out every morning here on the program, either the Rob Rant or the Rex Rant. And, Joe, today's rant is aimed at myself because, as you know, I'm a very passionate viewer of Tennessee football, and I've been very upset many times in my life. Matter of fact, when I look back at the end of my life, I probably will have lost 5 or 6 years of quality lifetime based on me just fuming and yelling at the Tennessee Volunteers play football. And I was as mad as I've been in a while watching them play UTEP on Saturday in the first quarter. It was 0-0 after the first quarter was over. Tennessee looked terrible on offense, Joe. Nico was missing throws. They couldn't get off. They couldn't sustain a drive. They couldn't get a first down. And I was thinking to myself, this is it. They're playing their way out of the college football playoff. This is a nice advertisement from Tennessee to the college football playoff committee that it's over. We don't deserve to be in. And that's all she wrote. And then, of course, Tennessee went on to win 56-0. Ole Miss lost to Florida. Indiana got blown out by Ohio State. Texas A&M lost to Auburn. Alabama lost to Oklahoma. And now today, Joe, Tennessee pretty squarely in the college football playoff if, and I think this is a big if, they can take care of business and take care of Vanderbilt on Saturday. What a day on Saturday. My rant is against myself. I should know better at this point. I should let things play out. And I was convinced after one quarter of play, Joe, on Saturday, that it was all over and that Tennessee was totally screwed. And I'm not sure that Saturday could have worked out any better for the Volunteers if you handpicked it.
No, I mean, it really couldn't have. The only other thing, Minnesota really had a chance to beat Penn State. I mean, they probably should have beaten them, and then Penn State would be as much of a potential fraud as anyone, and they won, and so they're fine. But no, it's amazing how well the day worked out for Tennessee. So you referenced it, but I'll immediately go back to it. Yes, overreaction, saying they're screwed, they're out. I mean, we're in the midst of in the course of a typical college football season, how many times are we just dead wrong about this or that? You think something earlier, then it's just totally different. I mean, there's so many. I mean, the Alabama right now is just apparently just they suck, which actually kind of devalues that win a little bit for Tennessee. But again, it's just incredible. But just as you are, knocking yourself for like being so convinced, and you have the right approach. But if there's any Vols fans out there who are looking ahead and like trying to plan out those playoff matchups that we're going to get a home game, whatever it is, better beat Vanderbilt. Yep. And I don't think that's going to be a piece of cake. I think we are headed for a really interesting, hard-fought game Saturday on the West End.
Vanderbilt's going to be ready to go in that one. I mean, think about the opportunity for them. I mean, there's a huge opportunity for Tennessee. Obviously, you win the game and you're in. But think about Vanderbilt and just the chance to keep them out of the playoff. Number one, you get your 7th win of the season, which, look, this season's already a tremendous success for Clark Lee and Vanderbilt. But if you could get your 7th win and keep Tennessee out of the playoff in the process, it's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to it. I think Tennessee's an 11.5-point favorite on the FanDuel Sportsbook. I think that's pretty high. We'll see what that looks like, and we'll have plenty of time to get into that game throughout the week here. But, man, it really did set up unbelievably for Tennessee over the weekend. Like Alabama losing to Oklahoma. We kind of mentioned that game in passing on Friday, Joe. Oh, yeah, by the way, Alabama's on the road taking on Oklahoma this weekend. I mean, they got smoked 24-3. Milroe throwing, 3 interceptions in that game. Was not very good at all. So now they've got their 3rd loss. Florida, look, Lagway and that team, they're playing pretty darn good football right now. And that was a big win for them. Ole Miss goes down. Jackson Dart was a couple of crucial turnovers. in that game. You mentioned Penn State. They were right on the brink with Minnesota. Like Saturday, you're going into it if you're a Tennessee fan thinking, all right, need some help here, and they got a whole lot of help heading into this. So now the table is set, and I know I've already heard from some Vols fans like, well, this is setting up to be the most Tennessee thing ever. You got the college football playoff right in front of you. Pretty much all you have to do is win, and you're going to be in. And Vanderbilt standing in your way. I think a lot of BVS starting to kick in for some Vols fans.
No question. To me, that's the right approach. Yeah, like talk yourself into the misery that may come Saturday. Seriously. And then, just do not count any chickens before they hatch in this. I think it's going to be a good game. I still think Tennessee if Tennessee plays the way Tennessee should play, when you have what you have in front of you, and how Tennessee has played, I think, a little bit more as the season has gone on, then I think Tennessee will win. But it's going to be a game. I mean, it's amazing. Right now, if you went by how teams are playing, you mentioned Florida, like Florida, Kansas, and South Carolina would be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're all, I mean, actually South Carolina is an interesting 3-loss, the whole 3-loss thing that's going to get into the discussion now. But yeah, that was my lock, was Alabama to Oklahoma. I'm shocked by what happened. Oklahoma ran for 250 on them or something. Just ran all over them. Milroe looks like he's never played quarterback before. Also, the refs screwed for all the the SEC props up Alabama. Please explain to me the conspiracy plan behind one of the worst calls I've seen to take away an incredible touchdown for Alabama that makes it a 2-touchdown game.
Yeah,
in the such a bad call that Bill LeMonier immediately ripped the refs. This is a video review guy. They all support each other. Yeah, I see it. Yeah, he was like, that is terrible. I mean. So please explain that one to me. But there's a lot of things you need to explain to me about college football other than we all can agree it's amazing.
I will say, as somebody who's been staunchly against the 12-team playoff, it's been a very exciting season. Saturday was awesome. And, I mean, maybe the 12-team playoff, Joe, is the only thing that could have gotten Tennessee fans in the stands at Neyland Stadium in the middle of the game on Saturday to start doing the Gator chomp as they took down Ole Miss. It was pretty wild to see.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, all these games we're talking about in the old system mean nothing. Tennessee against Vanderbilt this week can Tennessee get into the, the Gator Bowl? No, I mean, it'd be like the Citrus, right?
Yeah. We'd be back down there in Orlando.
Sure. I mean, there's just a lot more games right now that have something to do with it. So, I mean, I'm just saying, there's pluses and minuses. It's just this is a year where man, it's just a weird year. There's just nobody. I know Ohio State looked really good. You mentioned the Indiana blowout, and they are very good. And they were at home. I still don't think that they're this juggernaut team. I mean, Oregon and Ohio State would probably be like the championship game if you came down to the top two. But I really think that anybody's beatable out there. And it's just amazing that we're going to have this playoff with no Alabama.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to think about that way. And we brought up Tennessee being the big winner from Saturday. Ari Wasserman threw this out there, and I agree with him. I know they got beat by 23 points. Indiana, pretty big winner on Saturday, too, because had none of those other things happened, we'd be having a real big conversation this week about, all right, does Indiana deserve to get in because they don't really have a quality win and they just got smoked by Ohio State. And now with one loss and Ole Miss going down and Alabama going down and Texas A&M losing, A&M's still alive for the SEC. So we'll see what that looks like against Texas. But I think Indiana is going to be pretty squarely in.
No, the rest of the day went really well for them too. I think maybe we'll get an Indiana, Tennessee, 8-9 game. There will be though, Robbie. I mean, as we move forward and we'll hear it Tuesday night. There are going to be some people who say, I say this 3-loss SEC team should be in over Indiana. And of course, I mean, Greg Sankey he's already started his schedule strength, beating the drum. There's going to be a lot of screaming to that regard. I personally can't get there because I don't think the SEC, I think the SEC is loaded with the most good teams. We could all agree on that, right? I don't think it's great though. I don't think it's a great league this year. I just don't. I think there's a lot of good teams in the SEC, and they beat each other up. I don't think that Georgia might be the best team, and we just saw Ole Miss beat their butt. So I just think that you can't reward just being a part of that league when it's not vintage this year, in my opinion.
I can listen to the 2-loss team with the schedule that they played getting in over Indiana. I cannot listen to the 3-loss team with the schedule they've played getting in over Indiana. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Corey Curtis from News 2 will join us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans win against Houston. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser, intern Robert here with you on this Monday morning. Titans win 32-27 against the Houston Texans on the road. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Corey Curtis from News 2. Corey, good morning. How are you?
The only thing that would make it better is if the Jaguars had lost again.
Oh, Well, they didn't play, so they didn't win either.
They've been on a bye for a while.
Yeah, yes, they have. There's no doubt about that.
Bears found a way to lose again.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring it up.
Bears be bearing.
I was not going to bring it up, but
go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
It's all good.
It's the Eberflus countdown. That's all it is now.
Corey, I thought the Titans fun to watch. They get over 30 points and they get a win. That trio has not been a very common theme for them over the last couple of years. What'd you make of that win for the Titans yesterday in Houston?
Well, I mean, you bring it up. They've scored 20 or more 3 times, and they've won all 3 games. It's amazing what can happen when you score points. They tried to lose desperately at times, but ultimately came up with enough plays to win. You know, the Texans made mistakes, and they made the Texans pay for those mistakes. The Texans handed them 3 points before halftime. They tried to give them back, but Nick Folk saved them. There was another sequence where the Texans handed them 3 points. I'm trying to run my head through it, but there were just opportunities. And then, CJ Stroud, turned it over, and he made 3 big mistakes, two turnovers and stepping out of the back of the end zone, which is really a third. CJ wasn't great yesterday. The Titans may have had something to do with that. And look, I know we got a lot to talk about, but one of the things that I was thinking about after the game that blew me away was with Amani Hooker down, there wasn't one starting member of the secondary out there for them.
Yeah.
They had backups at all 4 spots and managed to, you think about it, they really kind of held the Texans to 13 points. They gifted them 14. And so, that group largely, got it done. And, even when Awuzie's healthy, I'm not counting on Snead ever being healthy, but I don't know if Awuzie gets a spot back, does he?
I mean, I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, they're paying him a lot of money. So my answer is probably. But Brownlee, look, it's not perfect with Brownlee, but he's playing really good football, I think.
Look, you're building towards the future. That guy needs to play. And okay, Baker on the other side, 39. Do you not think he is better than either of the starting cornerbacks they had last year?
I mean, you could definitely make
That's
that
probably
case.
a fair point.
I mean, he is. He's better, and he's getting better. He seems to be the style they want to play, that hyper-aggressive physical style. He seems to be really kind of built for it and embracing it. Look, I brought this up with somebody else yesterday. They're tied into those 2 guys pretty financially deep, but I would not. And I've got nothing against Awuzie. He's a nice guy. He's been a good player in his career, but you're building a football team. I would not be surprised to see him be a July cut for this team in the summer.
It's an interesting point. I would like to see Shinobi, just to see him have a possibility of being benched or started or whatever. That'd be a refreshing sight for the Titans. So from cornerback, Corey,
guys like $110 million. Yeah,
a lot of money.
All right.
Yeah. So from cornerback to quarterback, where are you on Levis? How important was this? What's the discussion right now on Will Levis in your mind?
I think. Number one, I think it's important that it's not 1 game; it's 3 games. It's a progression. He continues to. This is 3 games in a row where he's played pretty well. Is it perfect yet? No, but I don't need it to be perfect on day 1. And there's this notion that he has to have it all figured out at once, and I don't understand that. He's clearly improving. There is stuff he can clearly improve on, but he's got a connection with Ridley now. And that makes a huge difference. in this offense. He clearly has his confidence back, and I think I think we talked about that last week, and you can see it, and it makes him a different player. It looks like the game has slowed down for him some. Even when he threw the pick six and everybody freaked out, I said, I am not going to let that play take away from everything else he has done in this football game. Even the incompletion he threw remember the deep ball he threw from the end zone to NWI yesterday? That was a good ball. I don't know what NWI was turning inside for, but that was a good ball to the sideline. So I thought he played well. I think he continues to play well. And as I said when he was struggling, I want to see the whole season. Because if he can finish out on this trajectory, I think you're pretty happy with where you are, especially with kind of where this year's quarterback class is. Jared likes to give me endless grief about my 4,000-yard prediction for Levis this year, which obviously was wrong. But if you take the last 3 games and project it out over 17, you know how many yards it comes out to?
4,000?
4,250 and 28 touchdowns.
Have some of that.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for doing that math.
It's 3 games, just like the beginning of the season was 3 games. And that's why I hate knee-jerk reactions. And I'm not going to make a knee-jerk reaction over 3 good games. My only reaction, like when the first 3 games is, this isn't good enough. My reaction to these last 3 games is, this is good enough, but we need to see more. All right. We got to see how the last 6 games play out. Obviously he's got to handle pressure and feeling pressure and getting rid of the football better, but obviously he doesn't want to turn it over either. There's elements to that, but I mean, the guy can make plays with his arm. He can make plays with his feet, and he can move the ball down the field. I am so excited to not see 14 screen passes called and to let him go down the field with it, whether it's letting him go down the field with it or he's actually going down the field with it. It's what he does well, and it's fun to see.
So why do you think it has been so different the last 3 games? And again, like you said, I mean, it's not like he's, prime Tom Brady out there or anything, but it's definitely progress. Is it more familiarity with Callahan having more familiarity with him and what works, what doesn't work? Is it as simple as confidence? Is it a combination of things? Like, why do you think it's been so much different these last 3 games than what we saw earlier in the year?
No, I'll use the Cali line. It can be both. I think confidence is a big part of it. And I think he got some of that back in Los Angeles. I think he's calmed down. I think he was pressing to start the year, wanting to, and I think he wanted to conquer the world when the season started. And I think he's taken a step back maturity wise. I mean, if you'll notice, even his press conferences are a little more boring now. He's got a little more Tannehill in them than he did before. I think he's taking a step back in his kind of in his maturation process in cooling the whole thing down. Like when you saw the 98-yard touchdown to Westbrook-Akine, you didn't see a wild celebration from him where like you might have before. I think he's trying to be in it for the long haul and not have such wild up and down swings. It's like Mike Munchak used to always tell me, fans wanted him to get upset on the sideline. And he would always say, if I get upset on the sideline and lose it, what's the message I'm showing to my team? That things are horrible. I'm out of control. We're doomed. He said, I always have to exude that level-headedness and that confidence so that they know they just have to keep playing. And at the quarterback position and also like the cornerback position, you have to keep playing. Mistakes, when you have the ball in your hand every play of the game, mistakes are going to happen. They just are. Patrick Mahomes has 10 interceptions this year. They're going to happen. It's what you do after them. Okay. Do you learn from them? Do you make up for them? And I think he is starting to realize some of that and not living and dying with every play. So I think it's a confidence factor. I think it's a maturity factor. I think it's a comfort factor between him and the head coach in understanding what they do well. And I don't think we can understate how important it is for him and Calvin Ridley to finally be on the same page. We harped on that and we banged on that and asked about it. I think just like as I gave Derrick Henry credit for figuring it out in, what is that, year 2 or 3, we got to give these guys credit for figuring it out midseason, because it was a struggle. You could see the frustration for both of them, and now they've got it. And Ridley's caught, I think, 5 passes or more in 4 of the last 5 games. He's becoming the player that they paid for. And I mean, shoot, even you look at the Chig touchdown, that's because of Calvin Ridley. And so them being able to get together really opens a lot of other things up. And so that's a really long answer for all the things that I think are going right with the quarterback.
I think that's a really good point about Levis' celebration. I'm now having a flashback to that time when Tannehill did the little finger hole thing and almost blew his knee. Remember that one?
Yeah, that was bad. Yeah, he got lucky on that one.
He did. So when you are under fire as both a coaching staff and a front office, and way more things are going bad than well, and you go win a game like this in Houston, given your ownership, what does that mean for you, Corey?
Well, it's huge. I mean, look, it's a win they desperately needed to show that their messaging isn't just a big smoke screen. And maybe it is. Maybe they go 3-14 the rest of the way, and yesterday is an anomaly. But I think the important thing, like with Levis's trajectory, I felt the team had played better in Los Angeles. The team had played better against the Vikings. And so you felt like they were going to play better against the Texans. I didn't know if it was going to be enough to win, but you've got this trajectory kind of arcing up, and then you've got proof of performance with a victory in arguably the most important environment imaginable with ownership. So it buys them a lot, but I also think it buys the coaching staff a lot of credibility with the players about what they've been preaching. And I think it confirms to the players guys, I've never heard a 2-8 football team sound as confident and sure of themselves as this one did last week. And it's just like, where is this coming from? I mean, I've covered a lot of bad teams, and you go in the locker room and it's a bad vibe. I mean, so, you've been there, and this team didn't have that. And they went out and played like it. So I think, for all of those reasons, it's important. Now, again, if they go 3-14, it's just an anomaly and it's not going to matter. But if they can string a few more victories together, they can point to this and say, this is when it started to turn for us. Just like we can point to the Green Bay Todd Downing night as the night it all hit the fan for the Titans and headed south. You could mark that day in Houston when it all started to turn for Brian Callahan and Will Levis.
Well, Corey, it's going to be interesting to see how they respond from here. Fascinating game against Washington coming up. Appreciate you taking time to be with us, and we will talk to you next week.
There are a lot of winnable games left on the schedule. That doesn't mean they're going to win them by any means. But if they can go to Washington and pull out a W, I think it could get a little interesting.
It could. You got Jacksonville twice. You got the Colts. It could get very fascinating. Corey, happy Thanksgiving to you and yours.
You too. You guys take care of your families. Give them a hug and tell them go Bears.
Yes, thank you. We will do that. Corey Curtis joins us every Monday morning at 8:00 here on the program. We'll react to what Corey had to say. Take more of your thoughts on the Titans coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. We are broadcasting live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Appreciate Corey Curtis for being with us in the last segment. Titans win 32-27 in Houston. They improved to 3-8. Will Levis, 18 of 24, 278 yards through the air, 2 touchdown passes, 1 pick six that he threw, a quarterback rating of 123.3. Joe, obviously, pick six wasn't great. The Titans were sacked 8 times in that game. You could certainly put a few of those on Will Levis, not getting rid of the ball as quickly as he should have. All in all, though, I still think another good game, another positive step in the right direction for Will Levis. And that now marks 3 games in a row since coming back from injury where he stepped in there and played pretty well. And this one actually results in points for the Titans, right? We talked about it last week against Minnesota. Plays pretty well, and it ended up meaning 13 points for the Titans. This time it does translate. They get 32 points. They're fun to watch, and he looks good again. So what does it all mean? How do you view what we've seen from Levis since coming back from injury and now the ability of him to stack it 3 games in a row here?
Well, I think Corey's exactly right when he says, like, if like these 3 games were the first 3, what would we be saying? Like, hey, man, this is absolutely. I mean, if you took these 3 games, again, they're not perfect. This last game, you had the pick six, but you took these 3 games, and then you don't have the early season just disasters, and these are the first 3 games, and I think we'd be saying, wow, this is on course, and you might even say a little ahead of schedule. Oh, there's that young quarterback pick six, but for the most part, you can really see it with him. But this stuff comes after all those really bad performances, and I think there's just a lot of things that are happening that you can see are getting better, even while the protection isn't. And again, maybe also the pocket awareness isn't enough. That's fair, but seeing the field, decision making, the arm talent is showing, and that is, you do have to let him show it, right? I mean, you got to throw downfield. They're throwing downfield. He's making some big plays. His athleticism still, running the football. He's sliding, by the way. I mean, he's still sometimes looks like he wants to take on a linebacker. But there's just a lot of things you're seeing, like all these things that are talked about early in the year when they're going terribly, that are starting to become part of his game. So it's just like, okay, just like we said last week, okay, can you do it again? Well, yes. Okay. Well, now can you go to Washington against a very good defense and play well and give your team a chance? But again, Thanksgiving week, Robby, and my thanks I give today is that Will Levis has improved to the point that we don't just have to finally give in and talk about the draft.
Yes. Last 5 games for Calvin Ridley. 10 catches for 143 yards against Detroit. 5 catches, 73 yards against New England. 5 catches, 84 yards, 2 touchdowns against the Chargers. 4 catches, 58 yards against Minnesota. 5 catches, 93 yards against the Texans yesterday. Now, granted, not all of those are with Will Levis at quarterback. Detroit and New England were with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. But since Levis has come back in there, you're talking 5 for 84, 2 touchdowns against the Chargers, 4 for 58 against Minnesota, 5 for 93 against Houston. One of the questions we asked was, would that connection, number one, would you have it between Levis and Ridley? And number 2, with Levis coming back in after it seemed like Ridley was making some progress with Rudolph, could he sustain that? Well, the answer is yes. He has sustained it these last 3 games, starting to
say that early in the season, the issues were first and foremost on Ridley. And I think that he has improved. I mean, he now is quarterback proof, right? I mean, he's making plays. And 2, this is why a few weeks ago we're having this, and we're going to continue to have the front office discussion. But this is what I was trying to say. Like, I don't know. Let's see how some things play out. Does Calvin Ridley start looking like a guy you should have paid? Does Snead play? Does Awuzie play? Does Sweat make more plays? On and on and on. You got to keep seeing. Some of those things are working out in their favor, and some aren't. Ridley, big time, is, and he just looks like a big time playmaker right now. And so, it does seem like beyond the just Ridley needing to get better and in the offense or whatever it is, obviously, I think Levis and Ridley definitely are building chemistry.
Well, here's a stat that kind of goes with that. So he had a 4-game stretch from the Green Bay game to Buffalo, where his yards per target: 3 against Green Bay, 1.7 yards per target against Miami, 0 against Miami or against Indianapolis, and then 4.7 against Buffalo. Last 5 games, yards per target: 9.5, 9.1, 9.3, 9.7, and 15.5 yesterday. So they're throwing the ball down the field more to Ridley.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, he's dangerous. He's a playmaker. So it's another part of all this, of course. And look, I mean, they lost out on. It sounds like keeping both Autry and Azeez Al-Shaair, but it's kind of wild that Ridley has a big day. They go into Houston and win at the expense of those guys, right? Because we've talked a lot this year about how different things might be. Had they kept an Autry and not gone after a Ridley.
Yep. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. More your thoughts on Will Levis's performance yesterday against Houston coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 the game. Titans win 32-27 against Houston. Discussing that performance, Will Levis's third consecutive game with pretty good play at the quarterback position. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. Chris in Kingston Springs says, if Levis continues to play like this and even possibly improve further, there's no need for addressing quarterback in the draft. Get a right tackle, a young receiver, an edge rusher, and a safety on defense. Joe, we've heard a lot of that today. Like, if Levis keeps going like this, maybe you don't look at quarterback at the end of the year. I mean, credit to him for making that a conversation, because if we talked about this 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think everybody universally would agree that quarterback's probably something they should take a look at, be that in the draft, be that free agency. I'm still not totally convinced yet, Joe, that they're not going to address that in the offseason coming up, but he certainly played it, I think, the last 3 weeks well enough where you start to think about that. And if he continues to do it, and certainly if he builds upon it moving forward here, then I think you could be trending to a decision at the end of this when he's back and he's the starting quarterback, at least for next year.
Right. I mean, he's pushed pause in what I think most of us have considered a foregone conclusion. But to the point of the draft, I'll go back to just a universal belief I have, which is if you're the Titans and you're picking 5th, 6th, and Cam Ward's there, and you believe Cam Ward is going to be the next great quarterback in the NFL, then you draft Cam Ward, right? Yeah. Like you still, I mean, the answer to this is there's information in a number of different buckets. And again, the Titans absolutely have to evaluate this quarterback draft class as if they're taking one, no matter what Levis does the rest of this year. I don't think there's anything he can do the rest of this year. I mean, I guess short of like a string of perfect QB ratings as he leads the Titans to the most improbable playoff berth in franchise history, you know, that is going to completely end the possibility of a different QB in here next year.
Wes in Clarksville says, if they would have lost, would you still be saying that he had a good day after that pick 6? This is from Wes in Clarksville on the text line.
Yes, but not as good. But yes. I mean, so then here's my question to you, Wes. Okay, so if they lost, but that loss included the touchdown to Chig that came after the pick, like everything else is the same except Houston's offense actually gets it done at the end, then yeah, absolutely. But it hits a little different, of course, when you actually win the game as a team, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, the pick wasn't good. That's why we've we talked about it. Like it was not perfect from Levis yesterday. You know, there's people texting in about the sacks too. Like I get it. Like the sacks, he's got to figure that out. Yes, some of them are on the offensive line, but there's no doubt about it. Like he's getting sacked a ton, and not all of it is on the offensive line. Like he's got to find a way to get rid of the ball a little bit quicker than he is.
I'm still just, I think it's at least half of those are on the offensive
I would
line,
agree.
But
that's still a pretty good amount on the quarterback there. If it's half, right? Like that's a pretty good amount that he's got to figure out. So again, it's not perfect, but the point is like it's way better than it was to begin the year. So why is that? Why is that the case? And can he continue to improve as they move forward? And look, for some people, this really hasn't changed the discussion, right? Like Bobby in Mount Juliet on the text line says, Levis sucks. He threw a pick 6. You can't consistently win games throwing pick 6s. Yesterday was a miracle win, like the Miami game last year. That's from Bobby in Mount Juliet. I don't know if I would describe it exactly the same, right? I mean, one thing, I've talked about this. I think the Miami game last year, Joe, got romanticized a little bit just because it was so improbable in the fourth quarter, given like just statistically how much time was left. And there was that stat that it was the first comeback of 14 points in the last like 3 minutes or whatever it was. And, in however many snaps. Like yesterday, pretty much from start to finish, outside of the one throw on the pick 6, Will Levis was really good from the beginning of the game to the end. I mean, that means something to me when you do it for a whole game.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, even the Miami game, it was improbable that they won. I mean, if you want to go back to those drives, he made like a flurry of really good throws, so this still counts. It counts on his record, just like the pick 6 counts on his record. But yeah, you got a 127 rating with the pick 6, most of the day was awfully good. Again, the sacks are a problem, but look, the best pocket navigating quarterback in NFL history gets sacked a few times with this offensive line. Can we all agree on that?
Yes, for sure.
So, I mean, it is a limiting thing for any quarterback. And to me, the way Levis overcame it, and again, it is showing more of that big time arm, is showing to me a little bit quicker decisions, quicker and more confident decisions. I even agree with what Corey said. Like, he's even kind of leveled off a little bit in terms of the emotion, which I think is a good thing. He's always going to be an emotional guy out there. And I think if he plays well, he'll be a clear QB leader for a team. But you also have to tone it down a little bit. And even just, again,
I don't know,
react.
man. Like Tony Pollard had that touchdown run yesterday, and you go back and watch Levis on the replay. I thought he was going to pull both muscles in his calves from jumping up and down.
Yeah, well, he hasn't toned it down completely. But I guess even but I agree with Corey, though. It's like early in the year, he might have tried to do like 8 cartwheels in a row to the end zone and then like broken something. But just the being able to bounce back from that pick six, I think that's important. That's kind of a big deal. Like the Chicago, the miracle flip. It's not like that was the end of the game.
Yeah,
but it was like he had nothing left. They didn't do another thing in that game after that play.
Andy on the text line says, I feel like we're finally seeing what we hired Coach Callahan to do. Had a lot on his plate early. Now that he's getting a feel for his job, his game, and the team, he's concentrating with Levis, and we're seeing what the difference result is. Like I said it earlier, Joe, I thought yesterday Callahan called a really good game. And I do wonder how much of the improved play we've seen from Levis is just directly traced to those two getting a better feel for each other and Callahan recognizing what works with Levis and what doesn't.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that's part of it. I mean, look, Callahan knew all along. I think that Levis' strength is pushing the ball down the field. I mean, he has tremendous touch in some of these downfield passes, right? And obviously unlimited strength too, but he just really throws a great deep ball. He always knew that, right? But it does seem like there's a little bit more emphasis on that, and looks a little bit less like the Bengals offense has looked. I don't know if that's, I mean, I can't sit here and tell you that that's really what's happened, but it seems that way. And it makes sense. It makes sense that they would get better together as a tandem.
How about this stat? So Kuharski just threw this out there, and he's getting it from Mike Sando. Says, after Will Levis did it in Houston, starting quarterbacks are now 3-33 since 1960 when taking 8 sacks and having an interception return for a touchdown in a game. That's how improbable the win was yesterday when you just go by the 8 sacks given up and also a pick 6 thrown in on top of it.
I need to know the other 2 quarterbacks who
I would love to know
dubs in that situation. So we need to find that out this week. But yeah, that is quite a combination. You don't expect to win the game that you get sacked 8 times in and throw a pick 6.
Well, and they win the game. They score more than 30 points. They're fun to watch. And Joe, that has largely drowned out on the text line today what was, again, just an absolutely atrocious showing from special teams, from the kick return that Houston had to fumbling the ball on the punt return to Jaquan Jackson fielding the punt on the 3-yard line. Like, it was another just abysmal day on special teams.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I can blame Jackson, right? Like that one, I'm like, okay, you can tell somebody something a million times or whatever, and they can still make those mistakes. But just to start the game like that with the 80-yarder, it's like, I mean, whoa. It's just, speaking of foregone conclusions, because I understand. Like, you asked PK earlier, and I agree. It's like, obviously they're not firing anybody in season, which is fine with me, but you have to get better dramatically better going into next year.
I hear what PK was saying there. I always leave some room, and when they won the game, when they won the game, I knew they were going to do it. I always leave some room for the loss at Houston for some wacky things to happen.
That is true. Yes, he could have been Bobby April yesterday.
He could have
today, I guess.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Preds in action tonight. It's time for Preds Pick to Click here on the program. Be the first caller, 615-737-1025. If you guess a goal scorer for the Predators tonight, you win a pair of tickets to a future Preds home game. We'll do that. Final thoughts on the Titans and the Texans coming up as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game.
It's time for Preds Picks to click.
And a shot at a score.
Do you think you know who will score a goal in tonight's Predators game?
Little give and go.
Shoot your shot for a chance to win Preds tickets. Call 615-737-1025 now. It's Pick to Click, now on Robby and Rexrode.
It is that time of the day. Time for Preds Pick to Click. Preds back in action tonight, taking on the New Jersey Devils, coming off a large win against the Winnipeg Jets on Saturday. Preds take down the Jets 4-1. A standings update in the competition. No change. Last time out, Preds were shut out in the competition. So Rexrode with 5 correct answers. The listeners, Nick Keyser and myself, all with 1. With that in mind, we go back to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Kenny. Kenny, thanks for calling in. Who is your pick to click tonight for the Nashville Predators?
I got to go with Steven Stamkos. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Stamkos on the board against Winnipeg. Kenny looking for him to keep that going tonight. Nick Keyser, you're up first in the competition. Stamkos off the board. Your pick to click for the Nashville Predators.
Ryan O'Reilly is my pick tonight. I thought he's looked pretty good down the middle. Maybe he gets things going in New Jersey.
Ryan O'Reilly. Joe, I'm up next. I'm going Forsberg. I was torn on this one. There was one other person I was considering, but Forsberg simply for no other reason than it's been like 7 or 8 games since he scored, so he's due at some point. Rexrode, your pick to click for the Nashville Predators.
All right, I'll throw in Yossi on the power play.
Yossi coming off a 2-goal performance on Saturday. Captain starting to heat up a little bit. Stamkos, O'Reilly, Forsberg, Yossi, the selections in Preds pick to click. Good win for the Predators on Saturday. We'll see if they can follow it up tonight against New Jersey. Joe, final thoughts on the Titans' performance against Houston. My general takeaway outside of Levis, which is just going to be, I think, the main thing we monitor here moving forward. Number one, good to see them not only play well, get the win, but be an entertaining product while doing it. Like, it was an entertaining game to watch. It was fun to watch them play football. And as I said earlier in the show, I don't know how many times you can throw that combination of them winning the game, scoring more than 30 points, and being fun to watch while doing so into the equation over the last couple of years. So it was good to see them do that yesterday against Houston. And, we've gotten to some of this today. We're a long way from me getting there in terms of like the, hey, could this be them going on a run talk? I will say, though, you mentioned it. You got Washington coming up. And after that, you got Jacksonville twice. You got the Colts, who aren't very good, coming up. You got another game with the Texans at the end of the year. Like, I'm just saying the potential is there for it to get interesting, even though deep down, Joe, I have no belief whatsoever that it actually will.
Right. Like the Commanders, it's kind of a stunning home loss to the Cowboys yesterday, and there's some reality creeping in. That said, they're right in there in the mix for a playoff spot. I expect them to respond. I think it's going to be really tough for the Titans to win that game on their home field Sunday. But if they do, we're going to all come back from Thanksgiving break, and it's like, the schedule it's pretty good. It's pretty favorable. There's some serious possibility. I mean, going to Indy, that's, the 2 jet, like there's some real possibility if they can get to. I think this week will end it, because I just think the Commanders are desperate and they have to find a way to win this game. But if the Titans are going to keep this going and win that game against, to me, a playoff caliber NFC team, then I think you have to start actually talking about it. Well, we are right now just pre-talking about it.
Well, and you've got Cincinnati in the mix too, and Cincinnati is not a good team. They do have an excellent quarterback and an offense that puts up a lot of points. So again,
and where they are is going to matter, right? Like
exactly.
What's their situation at that point? The Texans, by the way, the end of the year, they might have the division clinched and be sitting a bunch of people.
Well, they might.
So,
and again, like I have no expectation that this is going to turn into like some big run here for the Titans. But for one Sunday at least, it was nice to have a little bit of a different storyline to watch and for the offense to be fun. And look, they threw the ball for, 238 yards and 132 yards on the ground. Like, it's a pretty good combination of throwing the football and getting the running game going with Tony Pollard yesterday too. That's why, I've said it a couple of times. I thought Brian Callahan did an outstanding job with the play calling yesterday. And look, some of this, like they were talking about this on the CBS broadcast. Some of this was on Houston. Like Houston made some mistakes yesterday that you just don't typically see them make, and that's both offensively and defensively. So certainly that factors into this. But I think you also have to credit the Titans for forcing them in to some of those mistakes.
Yeah. And to the to the point on the schedule and the opportunity and everything, going into this game, you look at the rest of the Titans schedule, this to me is the least likely game that they win of all of them.
I agree.
And they just won it. So I'm just saying. But yeah, look, and like you said, Robbie, it's beyond the win or whatever, like a very unlikely run that we're talking about. Being fun to watch has been such a rarity for this team over the last 2 years, like such a rarity. And even this year earlier, I didn't think the Miami win when they did actually score some points was all that watchable either. No. This was actually fun, and some of it was their own mistakes, but it was a wild, fun game. And for them to come out on top in that game, it's kind of stunning. I mean, the Texans have been so good, obviously, since being the surprise team in the league last year. And then you look at some of the people the Titans were missing on defense. It's I never would have guessed. If you give me some of the circumstances here, I never would have guessed they would have won. Again, you just read the quote about 3 and 33 for the quarterbacks with the 8 sacks and a pick 6. So good for them for also continuing to work and try to get better. And obviously still, Brian Callahan's messaging is working. There's some things that were validated yesterday.
No doubt about it. 32-27, the final for the Titans against Houston. We'll have you covered with your reaction all day long here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. But a fun day. We're going to get a little bit more into the college football playoff discussion tomorrow. Big weekend for Tennessee over the weekend. They take down UTEP, and a lot of things fall their way, which is just going to set up a massive showdown between Tennessee and Vanderbilt in our city later this week. So looking forward to getting more into that tomorrow. Joseph, great stuff today, my friend. We'll see you in the morning.
Sounds good. See ya.
That does it for us today on the program. Chasing Big Joe is coming your way next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.